So wanted to introduce you to Cody Askins here. So Cody, if you haven't seen some of his content, I definitely recommend it. Some of the most watched stuff on YouTube, really niche to insurance. He's really hit on a spot that hasn't been out there. It's everything from motivational to technical to just things that people are talking about when we get in our circles, but not necessarily out in media content. I call him the Tony Robbins of insurance, but I should be calling Tony Robbins the Cody Askins of motivational speaking. So
there you go.
With that, I'll hand it off to my good friend, Cody Askins.
Boom, brother. Thank you, Keith. Dude, no pressure now, right? He's getting me and Tony Robbins in the same sentence. I never dreamed that would happen, right? Well, I can't promise I'll be Tony Robbins, but I can promise you that I know the insurance space, that I'm excited to be here. I appreciate y'all being here. And my goal from this, also too, those that are able, right? I know some of you are multitasking and busy, etc. Jason, I appreciate the camera on. For those that are able to turn your camera on, I want this to be very engaging. I'm going to make it more workshop style today. So if you can turn your camera on, I can promise you it'll benefit you and me, and it will make this even better. When I talk a lot. I'm big on energy. I'm big on engagement. My goal today, just out of the gate, is to get you thinking differently about your business than you're currently thinking about it, right? Okay. Thank you for there we go. I love it. Appreciate that. My goal is to get you thinking bigger. I've spoke to NAFA, Blue Cross, like some big carriers and companies. And when I do at those bigger conferences or more intimate masterminds, what I talk about, thank you, is I talk about scaling as an agency owner, right? So my job today is to get you thinking differently about scaling. I believe, and you'll see it because of the way I talk, I believe that insurance agency owners think too small. They don't spend enough. They're not aggressive enough. Their team's too small. They don't have enough prospects. And at the end of the day, okay, and don't shoot the messenger because I'm aggressively, that by the end of this call, my goal is to challenge you, get you thinking bigger, and get you thinking differently than you currently think, right? I can't promise you that, I'm going to sprinkle some fairy dust on your agency and it's going to be perfect overnight, right? Like that's not how this works. I would be lying if I said that was going to be the case. But what is going to be the case is, again, I'm going to put you through some actual exercises. I'm going to have you participate in chat a little bit. I'm going to go through, normally this is a 90-minute talk. I only have 56 minutes max. Okay, so I'm going to move a little quicker. I'm going to take out some of the stories that are irrelevant because these are like bigger workshop style talks. Gate with my scaling for agency owners talk, I want to ask you several questions, a series of questions to get you thinking a little differently and a little bigger, because I also want to better evaluate you and get to know the type of person or agency owner that you are, right? Like you've all been chosen for a reason. You're obviously doing great, right? You're making some money. Hopefully you've got an agency that's doing well, etc. But I want to challenge you for the next 56 minutes to do me a favor and have an extremely open mind. Okay, I'm going to share some things that maybe are different from the way you've been trained, different from the way you were raised, different from the way you may currently think, right? But when I go to events, I keep my mind open. I try to remove my ego and my pride, and I try to be coachable, right? And learn and soak up as much as I can, right? So I may share a couple other things I'm thinking about at the end, but the series of questions I want to start out with just to get you thinking a little differently. Okay, the first question, and you're like, how does this help me sell more insurance? Well, I can tell you the bigger your vision is, and the more focused you are on your vision, and the more you expand your vision and your think, the more money you will make, guaranteed. First question, would you rather, and you can just write these down as you take some notes today. If you want to share them in chat, you can. Would you rather, and there's no wrong answer, by the way, whatever you think is right and comes to mind first, just put that. Okay, this isn't a test. We're not going to grade you. Okay, would you rather, Doug? Would you rather earn 40 million or be given 100 million? Would you rather earn blood, sweat, tears, $40 million? We're thinking a little bigger today, right? We're not talking about 40 grand. Okay, would you rather earn 40 million or me give you 100? Okay, by show of hands, who's like, dude, I'd rather earn the 40. You know, that's the way I was raised. I want to earn the 40. I want to work. I want to earn it. Who's like, I don't care. Jason and Cody raised their hand, but I don't care. Just give me the 100. Okay. Okay, good. And some of you are like, don't give me either. I'm not gonna raise my hand at all. Okay, that's okay too. Okay, we'll fix that at some point. Okay. Second question. Okay, second question. Would you rather be the worst player on the best team or the best player on the worst team? Okay, worst player on the best team, best player on the worst team. Who says, Cody, I'd like to be the worst player on the best team? Okay, if y'all can help me with muting, thank you. Okay, worst player on the best team. Okay, who says, nope, I'd rather be the best player on the worst team? Okay, again, there's no wrong answers. Okay, who's like, I don't know how to answer the question. That's okay too, right? There we go. Okay. Next question, would you rather $1 million or 1 million followers? Okay, unique, different. It doesn't relate to selling insurance, right? But who would rather, who's like, give me the money, I'll take $1 million, cash, put it in a briefcase, right? Okay, good. Or who's like, give me the 1 million followers because I know what I could do with the followers, right? And the attention, okay? Would you rather pay $30 and develop them into what you want? Or would you rather pay them $50,000 to no development needed? Who said them 30 grand and develop them along the way? Or who's, okay, 30 grand develop along the way. Or who says, hey, I'd rather pay them 50 and there's little to no development needed and they're just a better team member from the start. Who says that? Right? Like you see where I'm going here? Like a lot of times I really believe the better your team is, the farther you will go. The more talented, some of you actually, believe it or not, probably have some people in the game, but you've probably got people in your agencies right now that show up late. They don't do what you say. They don't work. They have low skill, low talent. And you're like, well, Cody, it's hard to hire people. Dude, I believe that whatever I say, I have control over everything in my life, right? I don't believe it's hard to hire people. We just stole the social media manager from Bass Pro Shops right up the street from Johnny Morris, right? They came over here now. Like, I believe we can find talent anywhere. If you've got, if you got 3,000 people in your city, yeah, could it take a little longer? Sure. But could you get serious and steal some talent? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Okay. Let's skip some of these. I want to move a little quicker. Next question. Okay. Think about your biggest problem in your business. You think about your biggest problem in your business currently, and I want you to write it down. What is the biggest problem in your agency currently, right? It could be people, could be lack of leads, could be we just don't, dude, we don't close, we don't write business, we need help, whatever, right? Like whatever it is, whatever you think the biggest problem is, I want you to write that down. Now the next question is, okay, and again, this is, I'm doing these things on purpose. There's some psychological reasons why I'm going to ask some of these things and do some of these things. They won't click or make sense at first, but just trust me, okay? Next question is, would you pay $25,000 to solve that problem? Some of you are like, dude, I don't got 25 grand, right? Well, that's part of the problem, right? But who would pay $25,000 to solve that problem? I can promise you, if the problem's big enough, someone could solve it, and you were serious enough about it, find the money, right? You would find the money. So think about that problem specifically. I'm gonna skip some of this. I'm gonna skip some stories. Let me go down to strategies to scaling. I'm gonna go through 8 different strategies to scaling an agency. Okay, 8 different strategies. I have a conference called 8%, which is in Dallas at the end of July, because 92% of insurance agents fell in their first 3 years. Hence 8% Nation. We'll have 2,000 agents there, right? So when I train, I talk a lot in 8s, okay? Because it ties into the brand, right? Keep everything on brand. First strategy to scale, okay? Well, I want you to think about what your target is. I believe you should have a target in business 100% of the time. Like if you walked into May without a target, it's May 4th. It's not too late, but you're a little late to the party. Right? Like if you don't know what your company and your agency are doing this month, And if your people do not know, you will not grow. Or if you do, you'll grow at a snail's pace, right? You just will. Okay, so I want to challenge you. What is your target this month? One of the targets in our company is to sell 1,000 tickets to our big conference this year. But to sell the 1,000 in May, right, for the July event. We've never sold 1,000 tickets even close in a month ever. Well, why is this relevant to you? Because when I choose to do something big and I get the team on board, what starts to happen? I get more creative, do I not? Right? It forces me to be more creative. I get more urgent and serious about what I'm going to accomplish simply because of the big thing and the big decision, right? A lot of things can happen. We all have ideas in our agency, right? Carly may say, hey, dude, I need this person, or I want to do this amount of premium, or I want this amount of leads, or I want to do this or that. The moment something goes from an idea to a decision, the more serious we are and the faster we can actually grow. I believe the faster you go from idea to a decision, the more successful the idea will be. When we have a good idea in our office, we implement it immediately. Like we just had a contest called the Ultimate Agent Contest that we had thousands of agents all over the world register. We chose 5 on a live Zoom call. We had them fly to Springfield, Missouri. We put them on a private jet. We flew them to Omaha, Nebraska, the secret undisclosed location. We put them in a mansion. We flew in 6 different trainers and coaches to help them. We gave them leads and training, etc. We mic'd them up for 16 hours a day. We put a camera in their face, and then we eliminated people every single night. And then we crowned one person the ultimate agent, and they won $121,000 in cash and prizes. I thought of that idea at 2:45 a.m. in Eastern time in Puerto Rico on the way back from a trip. I told the team, I filled up a Google Doc that Sunday afternoon. I told the team Monday morning, and then we rolled it out to the world on Wednesday, 72 hours later. And it took a lot of detail, right? But the faster we go from idea to decision, also too, if you're trying to attract millennials and agents and people to your team that are younger, they need to have some fun. You've got to keep their attention. You can't run an insurance agency the same way you did in 1942, right? It doesn't work. They need to be challenged. They need to be excited. They need to wake up and want to be there, right? So yeah, we challenge them, we push them, but we can all accomplish way more in a short amount of time than we ever dreamed. And so I'm a big believer in targets, but I'm also a big believer in how much can we accomplish in a short amount of time, right? Like I would figure out what your biggest month ever is, and then I would go do it in a week. Because if you can do it in a month, you can do it in a week. You're like, well, I don't know if I can. Well, has somebody else done your biggest month in a week, right? Because if they have, so can you. Because then I get more creative, I get urgent, and I push harder than I've ever pushed. Okay, so number 1's target. Number 2, know your numbers. You have got to know your numbers every step of the way. I talk to business owners. I just got off a strategy session with a business owner, and I told, this is a different business owner, but I talk to business owners all the time. But most business owners do not know their numbers, right? Like I ask them questions about their company and they're like, dude, I don't know, bro. I'm like, well, how much premium did you do last month? I don't know. What did you do in revenue last month? I don't know. Well, how much did you do in expenses last month? I don't know. What did your team do? What did your salespeople do? What did you do? I don't know. It's like, how do we not know? Like, for example, this has nothing to do with selling P&C, but when I was 20, I first started out selling insurance. I made $117,000 in my first 8 months while I was in college playing basketball. But I attribute a lot of that, with no leads, by the way, just cold door knocking. But I attribute a lot of that to having a whiteboard to where I could literally track my activity every single day, right? Like in an office, you need to be tracking the activity of your salespeople. You need to be tracking the activity of your reps, and you need to be tracking your own activity, right? Like we're putting down how many appointments we're setting, how many appointments we're running, how many sales we're making, and how much revenue we're, right? So doing that will keep everybody focused, because nobody likes to go up to a whiteboard. If you've got agents, by the way, nobody likes to go to a whiteboard and put a 0 up there. But it's not optional. Like that's part of working here. They do that, right? Like, so knowing your numbers is really important. I like to know my numbers as much as humanly possible. This is a little extreme. However, when we get closer to our event, I want my team to give me a report and an update on how many tickets we're selling for our event every 60 minutes. right? The more important the number, the harder and more you should track it and know it. Okay, so I don't know, whatever the metric is for you, I would want to know it as much as I possibly can, as often as I possibly can. I can promise you, you pay attention to something long enough, it will get bigger. It's just the way it works. Okay, so 2, know your numbers. Number 3, I'm trying to move quick, by the way. Okay, number 3, details delay. Okay, details delay. A lot of insurance agents don't get out of the gate and do well in this industry because they want to know everything before they do anything. Some of you, Jason's laughing, some of you got some agents like that, don't you? They want to know everything and all the product details and the farmer's guides and the quoting software. It's like, dude, unless they talk to someone, they're not going to, who cares what they know about farmers? If they don't have a prospect, it doesn't matter, right? So in our business, we also operate the same way. I believe that details delay. Right? I believe that details, all like you researching stuff is a way of just of your people saying, I don't need to work. I'm researching. I'm learning. You know, it's like, no, you can learn on nights and weekends. Like we're here to put in some effort, right? So I believe if you've made a decision, details will delay you. Details will delay you from accomplishing more faster. A lot of once you just make a decision and start moving, the details figure themselves out, don't they? Right? Like what I mean, if it's well, if you want to try out some new leads, well, we got to know all about them, and we got to do this, and we got to set up the automations, we got to get the emails right. Like, no, you could have already sold one by the time you figure out all the details of working them, right? And we all get the same amount of time in a week. I just know that I want to maximize as much as I possibly can during that time. Right? Some of you are already like, all right, Keith, this dude is nuts. I'm never getting on another Zoom call with him again. I don't want to leave yet because it's going to be awkward and he can see that I'm not here. Okay. But I can tell you, I may be a little different, right? A little aggressive, but I'm here because I want to help you make more money in your agency. Right? Like, for example, some people's agencies went backwards during COVID. Well, what's funny is most people's agencies went forward during COVID. Like there was restaurants in our town that closed. Dude, like I would go door knock and take orders before I just flipping closed up a restaurant, man. Like, did they do whatever it took? Like if you're slow right now in your agency, the only person we can, this isn't a strategy that I'm going to share today, but I operate by one single rule, and that is accept responsibility. If something's not right in my life, it's my fault. Right? I get in a car wreck and I drive through and somebody drove through a stop sign. I should have saw them. That's my fault. Okay. It's extreme, but I blame me for everything, because if I do that, I'll stop blaming others and making excuses and complaining and just go fix it. Right? It's unique, but I live by the philosophy that I'm going to accept responsibility every step of the way for everything. Your bank account doesn't have enough money in it. It's your fault. Right? Your premium isn't high enough. It's your fault. Your team isn't focused and trained and executing. Dude, if my team gets sloppy, it's totally my fault because I'm allowing it. Also, too, the more average people I allow in my office, the more other great people aren't going to want to be there because they got to hang out with average people. Right? You start hiring average people. I ask myself this question before I hire anyone. Do they make our team better, worse, or the same? Team better and they make our team the same or worse, I don't even think about hiring them. Like that's the right. So when you're building a team, and you need people to scale, by the way, I focus on finding the best possible person. Also, I don't just hire them because they're my cousin or my sister or they're somebody's spouse, right? Like we don't do that. Like we hire people we hire people based on a role, not based on whether we just like hanging out with them or not, because that doesn't get us anywhere. We hire people based on the best person for that role. Okay, number 4, after details delay, number 4 is gain time. We all have the same amount of time, and you need to find ways to gain time in your agency. You can automate some stuff. You can delegate some stuff. You can get some stuff off your plate. You can use virtual assistants. You can hire people in your office. You need to be gaining time, because whatever you're good at, I'm gonna put you through an exercise later, but whatever you're good at, you need to be doing more of it. I'm really good at promotion and sales. So we try to get to where majority of my schedule, we try to get to where 80% of my time is used promoting and selling. Okay, so if you used to be good at selling insurance and you're like phenomenal at it, but you never sell anymore, that's a problem, right? Like if you're really good at it, also a lot of your people are not going to be as good as you at certain stuff. But I want to hire people that are great at certain things that I'm not good at, so that I can delegate that away. Like I'm terrible with details, and because details delay, details and organizing and calendars and scheduling and emails, all this other stuff, right? But I have people on my team that I can delegate those things off to, so I can focus on my strength. Okay, so gain time. Number 5. I got to move a little quicker. Number 5, scale now. Okay, scale now. Here's an idea. Something I do a lot in our office, and it works really, really well. Okay, let me grab a marker real quick. We do something called a whiteboard method. Okay, so somebody help me out. Put in chat or unmute, either way, whatever. Your biggest, at least one person help me out. What's the biggest month you've ever had in just like new premium that you write? Okay, somebody help me out real quick. I don't mind some awkward silence. I'll wait. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Nate. 79,000. Okay. 79,000 in 1 month, right? Way to go, by the way. That's solid. That's not bad, man. Like I talked to a lot of people. That's decent. Okay. Good job. 79K in a month. Now, what I would do is we use this white. I would get the whole team around and I would say, okay, we did 79K in a month. Hypothetically, how do we do 79K in 5 business days? What ways would we do that? Well, we need more leads. We need to really focus on certain tasks so we can get closer to that. We'll have to spend more money. Well, if we do 4 times the volume, or the same volume 4 times faster, who cares, right? Well, we're gonna need more people. We need 2 more salespeople. Okay, great, right? So I start creatively thinking. I call this the whiteboard method. I start creatively thinking about where we're gonna go, and then, dude, if it's more leads, if it's focused better, if it's spend more money, add more people, like we have the ability to do all of these, right? Now, some of you are like, I don't know if I want to do 79K in 5 weeks or 5 days. Dude, like you're running a business, you own an agency. The goal is to make money, as much money as you can, and for your team to make a bunch of money, and for you to help a bunch of people. Also, too, not only is the person that writes 79K in a week over a month, I'm not saying they're a better agent, but they do care more about people because they helped more help more people with their insurance during that week over that month, right? Like it's if people don't, if you don't help a lot of people, I think you're selfish, right? I think you're thinking all about you. Okay, so how can we get to where? So I would try this, right? Whatever the number is, okay, whatever the number is for you, I would think about this, and I would try it with my team, and I would say, okay, how do we do it? Our biggest month ever. How do we do it in a week? And then just see what answers you get, because you may love one of them, right? You may love one of the answers. You may implement some of the things that you hear, and then it may get you to scale a little quicker. Okay, number 6 of the 8 strategies to scale. Number 6 is people. Okay, number 6 is people. I'm going to read something real quick out of John Maxwell's book, Developing the Leaders Around You. Okay, it's on page 4, right out of the gate. One of John Maxwell's book. He's a leadership expert on developing the leaders around you. Okay, because we all need people and team members. No matter how many we have, we need more. Really, the more team members I have, the more money I make. The more everybody I add, my revenue typically goes up. By the way, okay, that's just true for me. John Maxwell, in his book, Developing Leaders Around You, says on page 4, an organization's growth potential is directly related to its personnel potential, right? And not sleeping would get you closer, but you may want to do that, okay? I like that. An organization's growth potential is directly related to its personnel potential. So I'm going to share a quick story. He says, when conducting leadership conferences, I often make the statement, grow a leader grow the organization. A company cannot grow without its leaders growing within. I am often amazed at the amount of money, energy, and marketing focus organizations spend on areas that will not produce growth. Why advertise that a customer is number one when the personnel has not been trained in customer service? When customers arrive, they will know the difference between an employee who's been trained to give service and one who hasn't. Slick brochures and catchy slogans will never overcome incompetent leadership. He says in 1981, I became the senior pastor, this is John Maxwell, of Skyline Wesleyan Church in San Diego, California, 1981. This congregation averaged 1,000 in attendance from 1969 to 1981. And it was on an obvious plateau. I asked, why has the growth stopped? I needed to find an answer, so I called my first staff meeting. And I gave a lecture called The Leadership Line. My thesis was leaders determine the level of an organization. I drew a line across a marker board and I wrote I'll show you the picture in a second, and I wrote 1,000. I shared with the staff that for 13 years, the average attendance at Skyline was 1,000 for 13 years. I knew the staff could lead 1,000 people effectively, the current staff. What I did not know was whether they could lead 2,000 people. So I drew a dotted line and I wrote the number 2,000 and I placed a question mark between the two lines. I then drew an arrow from the bottom 1,000 to the top 2,000 and I wrote the word change. Okay, so 1,000 bottom, 2,000 top, arrow, change, question mark. Okay. And he says, it would be my responsibility to train them and help them make the necessary changes to reach our new goal. When the leaders changed positively, I knew the growth would become automatic. Now I had to help them change themselves, or I knew I would literally have to change them by hiring others to take their place. From 1981 to 1995, when he took over the Skyline Church, Skyline Wesleyan Church, 81 to 95, I gave this lecture at Skyline on 3 different occasions. The last time, the number 4,000 was placed on the top line. As I discovered, the numbers changed, but the lecture did not. The strength of any organization is a direct result of the strength of its leaders. Weak leaders equal weak organizations. Strong leaders equal strong organizations. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So I want to ask you, okay, can your current people in your organization, whether it's 1 or 8, they've gotten you to where you are now, but can they get you to where you want to go? And as a leader, how bad do you want to get there, right? I love our team members, but if I think, we're not running a charity, if I think that one of our team members is holding us back from getting to where we want to go, I will have to love them out the door, right? I just will, because I'm running a business. I'm putting sweat and money and tears and effort into this thing. And if someone in your current organization can't get you to the next level, it's time to find someone who can. Okay. And when you do that, don't tell them it was my idea. Okay. Tell them it was you. Just kidding. But I want you to give that a serious thought, because we tend to hold on to average people too long. I believe in hiring slow. We always do a couple interviews. We get to know the person, but we also believe in firing fast. Okay. We hire slow, we fire fast. Like we add them, we hire them slow, but day 2, if they're not doing what I want them to do, they're not right to work here, right? Like there's nothing says we have to keep them, right? So we move on. Okay. Also, under people, number 6, the question is, why don't you delegate? Okay, because there's a lot of agency owners that I meet that are making $250,000 to $500,000 a year, that they end up doing it all, right? And they don't delegate. They're natural control freaks, just like me, by the way, okay? And the question is always like, why don't they delegate? Well, I've had assistants in the past that I didn't delegate to. Well, the only reason I would have an assistant and I wouldn't delegate them is I don't trust them to do what I'm giving them, which means ultimately, if I can't trust people to do their job completely and utterly without me, what does that really mean? That means that they're not the right assistant. That means they're not the right person for the job. My current assistant, I can delegate anything, right? I can literally delegate anything and she will get it done. I don't even worry about it. Okay. Also, here's a, well, I'll save that one. Okay. One of the things we do when you add agents to your team, I do a monthly P&L, profit and loss statement, on every salesperson every month. So I know down to the penny how much I made on one of my sales reps. Okay, so if you're adding people to your team, you're adding team members, you're adding agents, I would want to know if I'm making money on them or if I'm losing money on them. Okay, some of us also, like, the goal a lot of times is like, well, you know, I just want really to break even or even lose a little bit of money because I'll make it up next year. You know, I mean, but if we can raise the standard and make money on them now, then I think we should. You know, I think we should. Let me see what this next piece is. I got this written down. It's like a remarkable note, but I broke my remarkable, so it's just on my phone app. Oh, here's one of the things we do in my office now too. A team member, I take them to lunch on day 2. Because what I learned 6, 7, 8 months ago is I wasn't getting to know each of our team members as much as I should have, right? I didn't invest in them. I didn't know, you know, I didn't know what they do for fun. I didn't know their family. I didn't know their spouse's name. I didn't know their kids. Like I didn't invest in the relationship is what I'm saying, right? And so I want to encourage you to do that because a lot of times it's like, dude, I'm the boss. I don't need to get to know them. Well, if you find good people, yes, if they're not great, you should move on. However, when you find good people, you need to do everything in your power to hold on to them, right? And to show them how much you care about them, because if you when you find good people, your organization will grow just because they're there, right? Your organization will grow just because they're there. So I do everything in my power to help them. Number seven is creative thinking. Okay, kind of like the whiteboard before, right? Just overall creative thinking. For example, I just hired someone for 36 grand a year to coach our team on some specific like email copy and funnels, specifically that we meet with every single week, because we do a decent job of that, but I know we can get a heck of a lot better, right? And I know that if we get good at it, that 36 grand will turn into 360 grand or 3.6 million if we get really good at it. Okay, so I want to encourage you to think a little bit differently, right? And if you can find someone that can help, there's a lot of pieces to your organization, by the way, that I probably can't help with. Okay, full transparency. But if you know someone who can, and say $100 an hour, whatever, right? Like if you pick up one thing that can help you even double that investment or 10x that investment, right? I would think a little more creatively and be serious about potentially learning from others, even if you have to pay them for their time, right? Or if you have to pay to know something and learn something. I know a lot of you already develop, right? And you're constantly looking for ways to make your team better and you better and your office better. You're investing in your knowledge, you know, often, or you realize that like for everything to change, you have to change. For the agency to improve, you got to improve, right? Or for everything to get better, you've got to get better, right? And so I know some of you being stagnant are investing in the organization's relying on your potential and right. So for those that are doing that and really investing in your business and yourself, congratulate you, because it's one of the biggest things that keeps me. It's one of the biggest things that keeps me pushing is realizing I can get better, you know, and realizing that a lot of times I'm holding the organization back. And it's hard to admit sometimes, by the way, right? But I've had to look myself in the mirror and say, okay, it's gut check time. It's time to pick it up, you know. Number 8, last strategy to scale. I would simplify your business. Okay, simplify your business. A lot of people, do a lot of stuff. And what I mean by that is we're running an agency and we do this and 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 this. And it's like busy work, right? Just fills our time. Well, if it doesn't get us a return and it's not helping your agency grow and it's getting in the way of us helping more people, or if you're doing 5 marketing tactics and 4 of them are good and 1 of them sucks, like let's simplify the business. Let's cut the 1, right? So that we can put more time on the 4. Or let's cut 3 and focus on the top 2, right? And then add new ones to find more. Like we need to be constantly thinking about how can we simplify our business, because you only have so much time, right? Your team only has so much time. And so I'm always thinking about, okay, how can we simplify our business overall, okay, as a whole. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is a 8-step scaling exercise. This is where you're actually going to answer questions to yourself. And we're gonna work through 8 different questions. It's an exercise that I do at retreats or private coaching on scaling an agency. Okay, number 1. What is your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? And I'm saying personally, by the way, not team-wise, personally. Right? What are you strong at? What are you weak at? Doing this and taking a minute to do this and writing down these answers is going to give you some ideas, by the way. This exercise is extremely powerful because it gives you a chance to like introflect and really start to figure out with some of the information that I just gave you, right? Like some of it was getting you thinking bigger. Some of it was priming you. Some of it was like, giving you some detail and some info and stuff you can go use. Now it's okay, what do we do with all of it, right? So personally, what's your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? I'll wait a second so I can make sure that everybody's able to finish that. Like if I had to answer that, I said it earlier, I'm strong at sales, but I'm weak at calendar management, emails, getting better at leadership and being a CEO of a company. I used to think 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was like the worst CEO in the world. And I probably was, I probably was. Number 2. Okay, number 2, what do you do that is the biggest waste of your time? Number 2, what do you do that's the biggest waste of your time? I'm also trying not to like hint or push you in certain directions. I want these to be your thoughts that you come up with. Okay, because I want this to really be revolutionary to where you're like, man, this specific better at, or this I got to do, or this I got to train my team on, right? You get one nugget, and you'll get more, but you get one nugget today. Most of you probably already have. You get one thing that you can tweak or change or do, even if it's just thinking bigger about your agency, right? Your income will go up for sure. For sure. I'm confident, by the way, this is going to sound, some of you would, maybe challenge me on it, but I'm not saying I'm physically going to do this. Okay. But I do believe that I could move into your agency for 90 days and we could double it, but that's because I have a high belief in the things that I'm practicing and teaching, I just do. Now, if your agency's massive, it may take a little more than 90 days. But if it's small, it may be quicker, right? But the thing is, like, if I could jump in your shoes and help you with it and do it, that means that you could too, right? You could too. Biggest waste of your time. Okay, number 3. I like that, Chris. Where are you at? That's good. Number 3. What's the next position that you should hire? Okay, what's the next position that you should hire? There is a next position, by the way, right? There is a next position. I believe the team should grow and the team should always grow. I don't think there's a time where we just stop hiring people ever. I don't. Now, if revenue is going backwards, yeah, maybe increasing payroll isn't the first thing you do, but I do believe in the team always getting bigger. And anytime I've made the team smaller, by the way, my revenue has went backwards. So we've doubled our operations team in the last 90 days, right? Like I had a COO and 75%, three sales reps leave my company 8 months ago, and the company's doubled since then. And the team is a lot bigger now than it was. The problem is it was too small, right? It was too small. And as a leader, I had some things to work on. Number 4, where would you like to see your monthly revenue in 12 months? Okay, what's your revenue today, and where would you like to see it in 12 months from today? So if you're at, I don't know, you do 20 or 20 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month, whatever you do in revenue, actual income to the business, where would you like to see that in 12 months from now? You have also got some absolute killers that you can learn from around the farmers community, right? You got Dan Kitajima out in California. You got my buddy Rich Cavanis in Dallas, who's an absolute life insurance selling superstar with his team. Like they're selling a ton of life insurance. Like you've got these different people around the country that are absolutely crushing it with farmers. Isn't Vlad? I was with Vlad Churchenko a couple weeks ago, right? Like he says that, dude, the farmer's opportunity is the best opportunity on the planet right now. He said for people that understand how to maximize it, he said the money, the bonuses, the commissions, etc., are ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, well, dude, he started getting my attention a little more, by the way, Keith. Okay. All right, number 5. Number 5. What are 3 things that could hold you back from getting to that revenue number? So 12 months from now, say you want to be a 7-figure income agency. By the way, there's more millionaires in insurance and financial services than any other industry in the world. You can look it up on wherever you want, right? Like it's accurate. There's more 7-figure earners in insurance than any other industry in the world. Also, only 96% of businesses do 7 figures a year. I'm sorry, only 4%. 96% don't, right? So if 96% of businesses don't do 7 figures, but there's more millionaires in insurance than any other industry in the world, then we're in the right space, right? And the good news is every single one of you can do 7 figures in your agency in actual revenue. So number 5 again was, what are 3 things that could hold you back from getting there, right? Maybe it's salespeople, maybe it's leads, maybe it's you're growing and you just can't keep up with demand and service and you're doing great, but normally that's not the case, by the way, but it could be in your example, right? It could be. Okay, number 6. What should your number 1 priority be every day? Okay. What should your number 1, as a business owner, you should know what your number 1 priority. My number 1 priority every single day is to drive revenue personally. Okay. In this company, I'm involved in 8 different companies. By the way, for those that don't know my story at all, I'm involved in 8 different companies that'll do over $30 million in annual revenue this year. And I got business partners that run all the other ones. And then I run this one. And my job as the CEO of this company is to drive revenue every single day. And when I have that mentality, we tend to produce and sell more. Okay, so what should your number 1 priority be every single day? Number 7. Think about your local community. Okay, your local community. And I'm asking this for a reason. It may not make sense at the time, but it may later. In your local community, your area, around your office, whatever, what do you want to be known for? Okay, what do you want to be known for from a branding and a marketing standpoint? Most insurance agency owners do not promote them and their office and what they're doing enough. Like we promote as well as anybody I know in the space, and we're still not promoting enough. Here's a real life example. We were in Chicago for one of our roadshow events, and we had like 100 people in the room that had bought tickets to one of our mini events. And I asked the room and these are people that are engaging with us. They bought something from us, right? Like who had heard about the Ultimate Agent contest that I explained earlier. And literally, I bet half to 2/3 of the room, Keith, it drove me nuts. Half to 2/3 of the room had no clue what I was talking about. And 1/3 to a half actually had heard about it. What does that mean? That means as much as you think you're promoting, you're never promoting enough. That means whenever you think you've reached your max from a promotion standpoint on whatever, you should do 50% more. For sure. Always. Right? So just as a general branding marketing concept, when you're promoting something, you cannot promote it enough. Like we send multiple emails a day to our email list of like 60,000 insurance agents, and we still don't email enough. Now we email sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, which is more than a lot of people in the space, but it's just because they haven't figured out yet that you should be doing it more because it's hard. Like think about this. Here's an example that you will remember this forever. This example you remember forever. How many advertisements do you think an average human sees in a day? Average human. How many advertisements do you think the average human sees per day? Insurance ads, like text messages, like that are ads though, right? Graphics, Facebook ads, billboards, TV, farmers, insurance, right? Like just in general, how many advertisements do you think the average human, Google, YouTube, whatever, right? That average TikTok, there's still advertisements in there, right? How many advertisements do you think the average human sees per day? Any guesses? Several thousand. That's a great start, by the way, and that's actually a better guess than most people that guess at the first. By the way, at the start, Nate. So great guess. It's 800,000. The average human sees 800,000 advertisements a day. What does that tell us? When you build graphics, flyers, ads, emails, pictures, events you do in your community, whatever you do not make it look like an ad. So when we're running Facebook ads to promote an event, we're putting up like a picture of 3 of my sales guys laying on the wing of a private jet, right? Well, would that be a little unorthodox and stop and get your attention? Maybe, right? It's a little weird. It's a little crazy, but is it going to look like an ad? No. If it looks like an ad, people just mentally dismiss it. Okay, so take that away for whatever you do advertisement-wise. 800,000 advertisements a day. It's insane. I got to keep going because I've got a 12 o'clock. Number 8, out of everything I've shared today, what do you think is really holding your agency back? Okay, be honest with yourself. Out of everything I've shared today, what do you think is holding your agency back? A lot of times too, I share some of the stuff I do or some of the specifics I do just to get your attention and to get you thinking differently and bigger, not to upset or offend or to bother anyone in any way. I'm hired to get people's attention, to give them ideas, and to help them think bigger about their future than they currently do today. Now, if I got on here and was incredibly boring and didn't give you ideas and didn't challenge you or try to get you expand your vision, well, I would stop getting hired to do this, right? I just would. Nobody would pay me anything ever, and they shouldn't. But if I do challenge your thinking and expand your vision and help give you a few ideas to expand your company and what you're doing, and you make more money because of today, even if some of it is a little outlandish and aggressive, and then as long as it helps you and your office and your community and your people, then who cares, right? Like, as long as it changes the way you think just a little bit, then I did my job. Okay, so I love doing this. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I can tell you, you are with one of the greatest companies on the planet. You have an incredible opportunity. No matter where your current agency sits, I promise you, you personally have the ability to make it as incredibly attractive, sexy, big, and profitable as you want to make it, whether you believe it or not. Okay, so if you feel like you've been stagnant, maybe it's time to push a little bit, right? If you feel like your team's holding you back, maybe it's time to let people go. Maybe you feel like you're doing it all. Maybe it's time to bring some people on. But I can tell you, the more money I spend on my business, the higher my revenue goes. That's backwards the way we're trained. Nobody talks about it, and it's going to sound like I'm trying to take some of your money. I'm not asking you to buy anything. The only thing I've ever talked about is the conference, right? Keith's already paid me. I don't need anybody else to pay me anything. But what we do need is for you to leave here and do something powerful with your business, because you can, you will, and you have the opportunity to. Okay, so I appreciate the time. I appreciate you being engaged. I appreciate you having the cameras on and in chat. And I appreciate you listening to this crazy 31-year-old that's trying to help every insurance agent in the world. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you, Keith.